Hi guys, my name is Stephanie and I am back today to talk about what's been going on with my hair loss. So 2 years ago, I started noticing I was having thinning around the temples especially and a little bit along the forehead here in my hair. And I kind of ignored it for a little while until my mom was in town and she actually mentioned something about my thinning hair too. So you know once your mom notices it, it's actually happening. And at the time when I made that video 2 years ago, I wasn't sure if the cause of the hair loss was just normal hormonal changes, if it was related to having COVID a couple times, or if it was some sort of immune system response. It could be tons of different things that cause women to lose their hair or to start having thinning. So everybody's experience is different. The cause is different for everybody. The way your body reacts to things is different. So this is just my story. It's not going to be the same for everybody. But after 2 years, I have stopped losing my hair. I figured out why my hair loss was happening. And I want to share that with anybody here that is watching in case you guys have the same reason, the same cause for your thinning hair or your hair loss for women. Stick around, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened with my hair loss and how I know what was causing it and how I fixed it. So in that original video 2 years ago, I had been using Rogaine for 4 months and I had tons of baby hair coming in, so I saw that it was actually working for me. I was using Rogaine foam for women. It's 5%. It's available in CVS, grocery stores. There's a generic version that's just called Minoxidil foam for women. Works just as well as this name brand, so go for the cheaper one if you want to. I was using it about once a day, sometimes every other day if I would forget. And I was really only applying it here, but I did notice, so when I started losing or having my hair thinning, I was having lots of hair falling out in the shower. And if you're a woman with thicker or longer hair, when you're washing your hair in the shower, you get hair all in your fingers. So you can tell if you're losing more or less than you normally do. And at that time, I could tell that I was probably losing 5 to 6 times more per day than I normally would have been. So when I started using the Minoxidil, I could tell that my shedding had gone back to the normal. It was very light shedding in the shower, and that was all over my head. And I think I mentioned in that first video that even though I was only applying it here, somehow it was making all of the hair on my head stick around. You know, I wasn't shedding everywhere, and I wasn't really sure why or how that worked. I was happy to just be having my hair come back and get my thicker hair back, so I wasn't really too worried about checking it out. Then last year, just in case, so 1 year later, I decided to quit using the Rogaine foam, the Minoxidil, for about 2 months to see what would happen. Because at the time I was hoping that maybe my hair loss was because of COVID and that my hair would stop shedding as much just eventually over time. Well, I quit the Rogaine for 2 months and I did start having a lot of that same shedding coming back again. So I could tell that I was still, whatever was causing my hair loss was still there and I had to get back on it. So that was last summer. And then a few months later, I was dealing with a bunch of other symptoms that I was talking to my endocrinologist about. I also have thyroid problems, so that's an immune-related thyroid problem. So I was wondering if the hair loss was because of that, some sort of immune response related to my thyroid. I was talking to my gynecologist, trying to figure out all of these symptoms I was having. I was trying to figure out why I was so tired all the time, why I was so anxious all the time, why I was gaining weight. And even though I was working out all the time, I was losing muscle mass instead of gaining. And I eat tons of protein, so it's not a protein thing. I was sleeping poorly, like all of these things were going wrong. And I'm in my late 40s. So I kept, for a few years, I kept trying to get these doctors to tell me if I was in menopause. And for whatever reason, my gynecologist at the time is sort of in the old-fashioned standard of wanting to sort of ignore menopause and go along with it. It's a natural body response. Ignore the symptoms, write it out, you know, just suffer that 10 years that you have to suffer, and you'll eventually get over it, kind of a doctor approach. Last fall, my symptoms had gotten so bad that I was feeling anxious, like something bad was going to happen all day long. And I wasn't sleeping very well at all. And like I said, I had been gaining a lot of weight through my stomach and losing muscle mass. And as someone who works out lifting weights a lot, typically my arm muscles are pretty buff or toned all the time. And I was losing it the more I worked out. So I'd finally had enough. And I decided to talk to a different doctor about getting on estrogen patches. So I did a bunch of research and I decided to go with this telehealth company called MIDI, M-I-D-I. They primarily work with menopause with women. So that's their specialty. That's what they're focused on. And they helped me start out using estrogen patches. I already have a birth control that releases progesterone, which is why I did not know for sure that I was in menopause. That progesterone prevents the hot flashes and the night sweats and the angry mood swings that people commonly think of as menopause symptoms. So that's one of the main reasons why I didn't actually know I was in menopause. But they started me on a low dose estrogen patch, and then every 2 or 3 months I would check back in with that doctor, and she would move me up a little bit if I was handling it well. So they've got a really studied approach to moving you up to a level that gets you back to feeling normal. And I have to say, I wrote a blog post all about this, so I'm gonna put a link to it in the description below. But I have to say, within that first week, my anxiety went away and my constant hunger. That was another symptom that was really driving me crazy. Was I could eat a full plate of food and I still felt hungry all day, every day, which makes, weight gain all the worse and trying to fight that weight gain all the worse. That went away right away when I went on that low dose estrogen patch, the first patch. At this point, it's been 6 months and I've moved up to a third level of estrogen patch. I feel like I'm back to my normal self. I have all of my energy back. I don't feel hungry all the time. I'm getting muscle tone in my arms back, which is great. And around Christmas time, I decided to go off of the Rogaine and see if the low estrogen or the missing estrogen was actually what was causing my hair loss. And sure enough, so at Christmas time, it's now April, so that was about 4 months ago, I have stopped shedding hair. I haven't used the Rogaine in 4 months, and my hair loss is still really slight, just my normal, what I had in my 20s amount of hair falling out. My thickness is back in my hair, it's coming back, my length is coming back. I don't have all of the thinning around here that I used to have. So I did a quick Google search of minoxidil and estrogen together, and sure enough, this mimics estrogen in your body. So that's why when I was applying this, even just in this little, in the front of my forehead, it was affecting the whole system. It was adding estrogen back to my body. So that's why this was fixing hair loss for me. And like I said before, there are tons of different causes for hair loss. There are tons of different reasons for hair loss. This is not going to be the same cause for anyone or everyone out there. But if you are in your late 30s, 40s, early 50s, and you're having unexplained hair loss, and you're starting to use Rogaine, and you're wondering what's going on, and you don't know for sure whether or not you are in perimenopause or menopause, you might want to have your estrogen checked. I know it's personal whether or not you want to go on estrogen. Some people still have strong beliefs of just writing it out and letting the natural process of aging happen. But I will say to check into the bad effects of estrogen on your bone health, your heart health, and your blood sugar. The lack of estrogen in your body can have strong aging effects on your system. So I prefer to slow that down and try to fight that as much as possible. I don't want to have bone density loss. I want to stay strong and healthy for as long as possible. So I went with estrogen. It was right for me. And it's fixed my hair loss. So now I don't have to do this either. And it's gotten rid of a ton of other symptoms that were driving me crazy for probably 3 years. So I want to share my hair loss story with you guys and let you know how I fixed my hair loss or how my hair loss went away when I started taking the estrogen patch. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'm not a doctor, of course. I won't be able to answer a ton of things, but if you want a little moral support or have a question that I can answer, I will try to help when I get a chance. All right? Thanks, guys.